feel free to put them in the chat, or if you want to shout them out, that's fine too. But either way, here we go. So yesterday we talked about the profile tab and season management. Today we're going to talk about race management specifically. So as I click into race management, this is race day stuff. Now there's a couple of things that you can do before race day to kind of help your experience on race night. But yeah, for the most part, this is all race day stuff. So I've got an event here, 2-8. I've got 2 classes added to it. And we'll basically just go through this stuff. This first setup tab that you come to is one of the things that you can set in advance if you want to. This will be basically how you want the program to handle pill draw options and transponder options on a class-by-class basis. So if you use transponders for one class but not another, you can set that. The pill draw stuff, I leave it at the default, which is the at check-in auto draw. It just automatically draws the pill number, or a chip draw. Some folks call it the chip draw. Just automatically draws the pill draw number for that driver immediately when you draw. There's also options for an auto draw after you put a driver into the entry list or before you put them in the entry list. So those options will allow a driver, if you want to have some kind of USB enter button, come up and click the button themselves. Or if you have it on an iPad or whatever, click the button themselves and allow them to draw that way before or after you put them in the entry list. And then there's also options for manual entry. So if you're going to use a lottery wheel or pull poker chips or whatever, you can have it be a manual entry deal as well. For transponders, pretty self-explanatory there. Are you going to use transponders? And if so, do you allow rentals or not? So that way, when you go into the entry list, you'll be able to mark if they're rented, whatever else. You can save any of these options on a per class basis as defaults. So you basically set it one time per class at the beginning of the year, and you probably never have to look at this page again. There is one other option on the screen that is one of the partner plan features, and that's a required registration option. So if you're requiring your drivers to register for a membership or a license or whatever at your track, just for your track specifically, you can select that registration and this required registration drop down. And then when the driver goes in the entry list, it'll throw an error if they have not registered, and you'll have the option to add them without a license, or you'll have the option to basically not give them points or not give them pay, whichever one you decide based on their membership status. So really only a couple of our clients take advantage of that. It's kind of a not oft used feature, but it is available. If that's what you want to do, it's a partner plan feature. So from there, I'll come to entries. And this is where we're actually adding drivers to our entry list. So I'll use the stock cars for this purpose, and basically throwing entries in. 3 different ways to find a driver. First, there's this My Competitors list on the left-hand side of the screen. All this will be a list of folks who have raced with you before in that class. Makes it easier to find those people. You can filter this by car number. So you type in a car number, it filters the list. And then you can also change the drop down to pre-entries. So if you are, again, doing a registration, you can have pre-entries show up on this entry list. Second way to find a driver is the scan barcode option. We have what are called MRP cards. I'm putting it in front of my camera. If you can see it here, it says My Race Pass on the front. There's a barcode on the back. Some of our sanctioning bodies and a lot of our racetracks will actually assign these cards out to drivers who have a license with a sanctioning body or whatever else. And that way, when they come and show up at the track, all you have to have is a barcode scanner. They scan their card and bypasses the search process. That's another way to find a driver if you'd like. And then the other way to find a driver is the search button, which just is what it sounds like. Click on the search button, start typing in the name, and search results come up based off of the name you're typing. If a driver does not have a profile, you can create one for them here. But any driver who's ever raced at any track that uses My Race Pass will have a profile already. So actually creating profiles, is almost kind of a rare experience anymore for tracks. We have over 80% of the circle track market in the country is My Race Pass clients. So there's just not a lot of drivers who have never seen MRP before, but you can create one if you need to. In terms of how do drivers get their MRP cards to begin with, I can send you a blank stack of those cards, and you can assign them out to the drivers as you see fit if you want them to have the MRP cards. But regardless of how you find a driver, whether it's search or clicking on their name or however you do it, it brings you to this screen. This is the entry modal, basically. This is the information that we're putting in the entry list. There's a lot of stuff here, but there's really only 4 pieces of information that we need to put someone to an entry list. First option is the pill draw number. It drew me a 66. That box is not editable. That's my pill draw number. Came up that way because I have it set to auto draw. If you have it set to draw before or after, you'll draw first and then find the driver or whatever else, or manual entry. But if you have it set to auto draw like I do, there's the number by default. Second option here is car number. Just what it sounds like, number on the side of the car. The program will not allow duplicate car numbers on a per class basis. So if I go in here as 23, you have someone else that comes and says, hey, I'm number 23 in the same class. You'll have to put an X or an L or something like that. We allow special characters. So if somebody says I'm 1 star, you can put an asterisk or $sign. You can do that. But just no duplicates on a per class basis. I also want to turn your attention to this checkbox underneath of my number here. It says using default number. If you, for any of these options, car number, owner, or transponder, you can check that default checkbox. And, you know, that way that data shows up every time the driver enters when you put them in the entry list. Third thing here, excuse me, is the car owner information. Car owner comes up in 2 circumstances. One is pretty rare anymore. The other one's more common. First, if you're doing owner points. Not a lot of tracks do owner points anymore, but if you're doing owner points, everybody needs to have a car owner. So if it's the driver and they're still their own owner, you would still put in, like I have, Austin Lloyd Racing or Austin Lloyd or whatever needs to go on the check as a car owner. So if you're doing owner points, this is vital that everybody has a car owner. If you're not doing owner points, which is the vast majority of tracks across the country, then what you'll want is you'll only fill this field in if someone other than the driver is getting paid that night. So the car owner, if you click the search button, it'll bring up a list of all the car owners that driver has ever had, regardless of network. So at any track, if they're driving for somebody they've never driven for before, you can jump to all owners and you can search for a car owner. So if I am driving for, you know, Mark Richards, or not Mark Richards, excuse me, Mark Erb, I type in best performance motorsports. That's what comes up. If I'm driving for Tony Stewart, I can search Tony Stewart Racing and it comes up for me. So just search through our entire database of owners. If it is somebody who's never been a car owner before, you can add the team over here to give them an owner profile. And all we really need there is the name as it needs to appear on the check and then what type of car it is. But I will choose that, mark it as default. And if the payout goes to owner, choose the payout goes to owner box. Fourth and final thing we would need is transponder number. Type in the number on the transponder. If it's theirs, mark it default. So you only have to type it in the first night. If they're renting one from you, check the transponder rented box. And then there's a report that you can run to show you everyone who has rented a transponder for you. Can you preload the driver lists so you aren't typing everything in? 2 ways to do that. In web management, there is a driver database area where you can start to add this information. It's kind of clunky. I can show you that. Or have a practice night. Have a test and tune night. When they come up for test and tune or for practice, put them in the entry list that day, and that way you're getting that stuff out of the way on that practice night. But those are really the 4 pieces of information that we need to put a driver to an entry list. Pill draw, if you're using a pill draw, car number, owner, and transponder. There are other things here, which I'll show you. First being lineup override. Lineup override, if you've got a rookie driver or somebody who, for whatever reason, needs to start at the back, you can start them at the back for the heat races or for all races. So it'll ignore whatever lineup scheme you pick for that driver and put them in the back. And then also payment amount, payment method, only as a partner plan feature. And to be honest with you, we really only have 2 national series that are taking advantage of it. And it's just tracking entry payments. So not like a pit pass, but if you actually are like charging an entry fee on a per entry basis, you can track it this way. This isn't collecting the payment by any means, but you can track it if you need to. And then contingency information down here. This isn't like a contingency award, like a hard charger or whatever. It's a contingency point standing, like how, Lucas Oil 8 Model Dirt Series has their Sunoco Race Fuel rookie points or their, Crew Chief of the Year awards or those types of things. Those are the contingencies. And I think only Lucas Oil 8 Model Dirt Series uses that right now. So you'll probably never see payment amount, payment method, or contingency. On the left-hand side of the screen, This is where you'll be able to see if they've registered with your track or not. So you'll see the memberships there. And then we talked about the forms option in registrations yesterday. This will be the toggle to see if they've turned in their forms or not. It's either a green check or a red X. But for the most part, pill draw, car number, owner, transponder, and add. And that's really what it comes down to. So in MRP, the first night, they might take 2 or 3 minutes. Probably not even that, a minute or two back there, but every night after that, it should go fairly simply. So I'm just going to add 10 drivers here into my entry list at random and get those drivers into the entry list. There's 10. Perfect. So I'm also going to fill in their transponder numbers here. And all of this information is editable. And all of this information will be uploaded into Orbitz or Westhold as well. What did I do wrong here? I got some wrong. Yep, got some wrong. Can't have a 7, so I'll do 9 there. Program also does not allow duplicate transponder numbers on a per class basis. That was that error. So again, I mentioned you could edit all of this information. You can edit the entry right there. You can assign a card this way, or there is an option to assign a card in registrations as well. And then, you can edit the name or hometown. Just so you're aware, if the name is spelled wrong or if the hometown is wrong, edit name city will fix that, but it won't fix it immediately. There's an approval process that we go through here when somebody wants to change a name or a hometown, just to make sure that there aren't duplicate driver profiles getting created. We want one driver to have one profile wherever they go. If you do see a situation where you're searching for a driver and find that they have 2 profiles, send me an email because I want to get those merged together as soon as possible. One driver, one set of data, make everything more efficient that way. So that's the entry list. A couple of other things you can do here is you can import entries from previous events as well. So if you're having like a 2-day show or something and you know that everybody that showed up night 1 is going to be the same people who showed up night 2, you could import from previous, pick the previous date, and you'll actually be able to select if you want the transponder numbers to be imported over as well and the pill draw numbers to be imported as well. So those are toggle options that you'll have when importing an entry list. But yeah, that's pretty much the entry list. We go to the races tab next. The races tab is where you're going to start setting your format for the evening. So what type of races that you're going to run. Notice you can import the data from previous races, but I'm just going to add races here. I'll add with my 10 cars. I'll run a qualifying session. I'll run, 2 heats. And I will run an A feature as well, if I can click my mouse correctly. There we go. So I'll run qualifying, 2 heats, and a feature with my 10 cars. A couple of things you can do on this screen is you can change the name of your races. So if you want to call it time trials instead of qualifying, you absolutely can. If you want to call it practice instead of hot laps, you absolutely can. I see that actually used a lot on the A feature option. So if somebody's running like a big race or a memorial race or something, instead of just calling it A feature 1, they'll use the name of the race instead of that. So like the, Firecracker 100 championship feature or, something like that. Or if you're running a memorial race, like the Mark Lloyd Memorial feature. So that's just one way that folks have kind of played with that I think is pretty cool. You can also add sponsors here too. So if you want that to be your class sponsor, or if you have race sponsors or whatever, you can have, your Bob's Garage Heat 1, your My Race Pass Heat 2, things of that nature. I'll say the one thing in this screen that's most vital, that gets missed the most, like the one thing that people overlook the most, is setting your transfers. So for each race, you have to set where you want the cars to go. So from qualifying, I'm going to transfer them all to the heat races. And from the heat races, I'll transfer them all to the A feature. But if you had like a B feature or you had a non-qualifiers race, you could send the top 5 to the A, the next all to non-qualifiers or B main or things of that nature. So make sure you're setting your transfers correctly. And then if you are doing passing points, which I know is pretty rare for most NASCAR sanctioned places, but if you are doing passing points, you would choose the from group option, because now we're not sending 5 per race. We're sending 20 from the entire group of heat races. But, if you're doing something like that, it's best probably reach out to us at support and say, hey, look, here's the specifics of my format. Help me figure out what to do in the races tab, what lineup options to pick, things of that nature. And then if you really want to, you can start them 3 wide, which I don't recommend under any circumstance, but some people like to do that. So I've got my entries. I've got my race format created. By the way, this races tab stuff is another thing that you can kind of do beforehand, especially if you have some idea of what the car count will be. It's nothing to add 2 heat races and then get 30 cars to show up and say, oh, I need to add another heat race after the fact, and just come here and add heat and move on. So races tab stuff is another thing that I usually set in advance before I get to the racetrack. But now that you got your entries and your races information, I'm going to do lineups next. Calculating lineups is extremely simple if you know what you're trying to do. So for a qualifying order, I'll probably just qualify based off the pill draw. There are other options like, based off their practice time, based off their last name, things of that nature. But I'm just qualifying from pill draw, hit calculate. My lineups are available. Super simple process there. Same thing for heat races. You'll pick the heat race option that you want, hit calculate, and now those lineup options are available immediately in the app. Everybody can see them, fans, drivers, whoever else. And then there's also a lineup monitor screen that you can hook up to a TV somewhere on your facility if you want, and just have the lineups always display here. But as soon as you calculate your lineups, this screen automatically refreshes, but all of your lineups that have not yet gone checker will be here as well. So as soon as the race goes checker, it'll disappear off this list within 30 seconds. As soon as you calculate lineups, the new lineups will show up on this screen within 30 seconds. So if you don't want to staple them to a board somewhere or write them on a whiteboard somewhere, you just want to have a TV going that has access to internet, you can have the lineups displayed somewhere at your facility the entire race night. So we've got our lineups in. The next step then, okay, how do I connect this information to Orbitz or Westhold? And there's a tool that we've got built that will allow that to happen. I'm going to do the demo here with Westhold because my demo version of Orbitz is about to expire, just to be honest with you. So I'll open up Westhold here, Race Manager. Is anybody in here? I guess can we get a vote here in the chat? Are you guys all Westhold? Are you guys all Race Manager? Are you guys all Orbitz and MyLaps? What do you guys use? Okay, so we have both. All right, sweet. I figured if everybody was one, then I would just do that one. We have both.
We're Westhold.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll do it with Westhold. It's the same either way. So we have a program called MRP Live that allows the two to talk to each other. So I open up MRP Live. There's a download application link, and I would have you run that application on the same machine that Westhold is running on. Now, a lot of folks will have my race pass just running on that machine also anyway, but some people like that have 2 different people, 2 different spots, whatever else. Typically, I just have it all one person, one spot. But when you get it installed, this is what it looks like. It's extremely simple. IP address that comes out of Westhold, we'll put it right here. The port number is 50,000. The port number is always 50,000. That will not change unless you've got like 3 scoreboards and something weird going on, but that's pretty rare. So otherwise, the port number is 50,000. Then just select Race Manager. So if you're using the same machine every week, IP address you'll only have to set once. Port number is 50,000. The only thing you'll have to worry about changing on a week-to-week basis is this connection code. Every event in my race pass has its own specific and unique connection code. So just type the connection code in there and connect. In Orbitz, I'll open up Orbitz as well. In Orbitz, the information is really, really straightforward there too. You go to the distribution tab, and the port number and IP address is listed in the distribution tab. So I go to distribution, IP address is right here. Again, port number is always 50,000. That doesn't change. You get it out of the scoreboard feed, and you connect that way. So it's the same data, basically, just in a different place. So all I have to do at this point is first I have to go and make sure that I have deleted the last race that I ran in Westhold, because I use the same race for every demo that I do. You probably will never have to do that because you're far more organized than I am. So I've got blank race, all I have to do in MRP Live is press the Get Lineups button. When I press Get Lineups, now when I go back to Race Manager, my competitors list for both I guess I have two competitors list because I have two classes. But my competitors list for every class is in here, and every lineup that I've created is in here as well. So now that I've got the lineup created, I'm ready to just time the race the way you always would in Westhold. So we'll go ahead and just give them 2 laps so we can have an official race in. Because again, demo mode in Westhold doesn't like 1-lap races. So I'll finish and I'll stop. Perfect. Now when I come back to my race pass, all I have to do is go to the results tab. And you see that there's a link here at the top of the screen for the last pending race. Click the link. There's my results. On this screen, you can customize this. Like, you know, if his transponder stopped firing, but he actually finished 5th, you can drag and drop him up to 5th if needed. I can save as completed. I can mark DNF, DNS, DQ, or black flag, however you want to do that. I can share the lineups to social media if you want them to be posted on Facebook or Twitter, or lineups or results. And then there's a media format option. I really only use this for the A main results, but you just basically be able to copy the results in there, and then I paste that at the bottom of a news article or race recap that I write. And that's the only thing I really use that for, but it is available if you just want a string of text version of the results. It's really all it comes down to, though. Publish the results, and we're in. Now that I come back to the lineup monitor, I don't have any result or lineups created, so right now it's blank. So my qualifying is done. I come back to the heat races. I'm going to line up my heat races based off of my qualifying order. So I'll calculate. There's my heat race lineup. If you want to do some kind of invert, there's a lineup options available up here. So if I wanted to invert the top 4, boom, invert 4. If you wanted to do some kind of redraw, there's options for a redraw as well. So if I wanted to redraw the top 2, I could do it that way. However you want to do it. Typically, redraws only come into play for the feature. But you can do inverts, whatever you want to do that way. So I have new lineups. So I'll come to MRP Live. I'll press Get Lineups. And now in Race Manager, my heat race number 1 and heat race number 2 lineups are available. And as I come to the lineup monitor, heat race number 1, heat race number 2 lineups are available. All of that is integrated. And if you were to look at this race in the app, heat race number 1, heat race number 2 lineups would be available in the app. Now the next question becomes, okay, what if Race Manager isn't working? You know, things go down on that machine, whatever. Can I still manually put the results in? Or if I want to do it after the races, can I still manually put the results in? Yes, absolutely you can. So this is how you would manually do that as though live timing stopped working. You can click on the name of the driver in the order that they finished. And I'll do that for heat 1, and we'll say that's that. And then for heat 2, you can also type in the number at the bottom of the screen and press enter each time for everybody, which I'm going to go a little faster than that. Maybe it works just the same. Save as completed. So if for whatever reason Race Manager stops working, you can do it that way. So now again, my 2 heat races are done. Lineup monitor is blank. Now it's time to calculate my A feature. So I'll calculate lineups. I'm just going to line them up straight up based off of how they finished those heat races. So there's my starting order. If I wanted to do a redraw, let's say this time I'm going to redraw the top 4. You can auto redraw them one at a time or all at once. Or if they're drawing numbers on the front stretch or something, you can manually put the pill draw number in. But I'll redraw my top 4. Okay, I've got my lineups created. I'll press Get Lineups. And I should be able to come back to Westhold. And there is my A feature 1, ready to be timed. Same thing with the lineup monitor. A feature 1 is in here, ready to be timed. So I'm all set and all good there. So I will start timing A feature 1. Now, as the race is running, one other thing that I want to show you here is up in the MRP Live option. Everybody that has the $8 a year MRP Basic app subscription will have live timing and scoring in their phone. But for your staff or for your announcer, there's a browser version of live timing as well. It's our lap viewer up here. And so you can see all of the live timing data here. Watch live timing as the cars cross the line. There are a number of views that you can have. There is a running order view. There's a best lap view. And for any race that has the name qualifying or practice or hot laps or time trials, the program will automatically in the app and in the browser switch to the best lap view. As an announcer, I'll tell you that I probably look at this screen more than I look at the racetrack during qualifying. Not during the races, I'm not to watch them. During qualifying, I mean, it's super simple here. Positions gained view will show you a plus minus for how many cars positions they've advanced or not advanced. Average lap time will show you their average lap through the race and their average lap time through the last 3 laps, which again, as an announcer, is awesome to be able to just have that information and say it on your broadcasts and those types of things. I love that. And there's a lap leaders view here as well, so you can see how many laps each driver has led. So a lot of different views, a lot of stuff going on right there. Will this replace Race Monitor, Nick? I hope so, but it is possible to run Race Monitor and My Race Pass side by side at the same time. They don't get in the way of each other at all, so that you can run them both. But like selfishly, as an announcer, this has a lot more information that I'd be looking at. Chris?
Yeah, if you guys can hear me, can you show them the pin tab as well about when a car comes across the line, or did you already show them that?
Oh yeah, sure. No, I'll show them the pin here.
Yeah. So
there's
this one here
that I use during qualifying. I really don't use it at any other circumstance, but during qualifying, I'll use this pin, and it'll just show me the most recent crossing. So you can see during a full race, it really doesn't mean much. But during qualifying, when they're hitting one at a time, you'll be able to just basically see position, best lap, and then their lap times on a per lap basis. So during qualifying, this is super simple. And then actually, if you use the pin or if you click on the name of any driver, you can, let me get rid of the pin. You can see all the information for that driver by clicking on the chevrons to be able to see all their lap times for every lap, all that kind of stuff.
And also the qualifying drawn here. I'm never last place ever in this thing. So
you don't drive a race car, Chris. But call that good. Checker flag, stop. We're good there. And now I can come back to results and I can import the race. And again, if necessary, you can drag and drop reorder the results if you need to for any reason, like if there was a DQ or a DNF. Actually, if you do that, if you mark DQ, they'll show up at the bottom of the list automatically when you save. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The most important thing in race management is getting the entries right. If you get the entries right, then it's just a matter of I'm calculating my lineups, I'm pushing them to live timing, I'm bringing the results back, and then I'm calculating my lineups, pushing them to live. It's just that series kind of in repeat for however many races you have. And it'll bring over all the heat race lineups at once. So if you got 5 classes, they're all going to run a total of like 25 heats through all of them. Calculate all the heats, then push it to live timing, and they're all going to go over at once. So pretty simple stuff there. The only thing that changes in Orbits is that instead of them showing it in an assign tab, because Orbits doesn't have an assign tab, you actually have to click the import groups and runs button. So you import your groups, that's your classes. You import your runs, that's your races, and then all the information is there. But that's running a race. That's start to finish on a race night. Now, the last step of this, points and pay. Points and pay exists right here. One of the things that I would have you do in advance is I would really, really recommend that you create points and pay schemes up in the settings wheel. If you create your schemes in advance, then this process takes no time flat. So there's points and pay schemes up here. So you can put in your various point structures. You can put in your various pay structures. And I think I mentioned this yesterday, but I'll mention it again. That can exist independently of NASCAR's point scheme. So if you have a track point scheme that is different than NASCAR's national point scheme, put in your track point scheme here, and that'll suffice, basically. So when I add a points and pay group, because I have a point scheme and a pay scheme ready-made, I can apply the schedule, which we talked about schedules yesterday. Apply the schedule that you want those points to go to. Can be 1 or more. Apply the points if you want it to go to competitors or owners. If you have team points, which I mean, owner points is rare enough. Team points, I think I've seen twice on our hundreds of tracks. But competitors, owners, teams, pick your schedule. If there is anybody who, for whatever reason, is ineligible to receive points or pay, you can manually uncheck them here, or you can use that license check to do that. And then I'll add. And now my points and pay are done. You can add points and pay for any kind of race that you run. A features, heat races, hot laps, specials, qualifying. You can do any kind of race that you run. And then there's also a show up points option as well. So you can add show up points, you can add heat race points, you can add feature points, whatever you want to do. And you can see that I have it set for if you mark somebody as a DQ, they don't get paid, or they only get show up points, they don't get event points. If you do need to make a manual adjustment, like if you're going to dock him 20 points for rough driving, or you're going to give him a $100 bonus for being the hard charger, you can make those manual adjustments. But again, if you got the schemes built in, the bones, the structure of what you're trying to do should be a 2-minute process to calculate your points and payouts. And then based off of your results, those results will go to NASCAR. Their sanction points will be applied in an automatic fashion by them minutes after your races are done. There's no more sending something via email or through the mail. It's all automated at this point. So then my points are done, updated in the app. If you've got a website through us, updated in the website, all of those types of things. Last step to this, create payments. That pushes us back to season management and the payments tab that I looked at yesterday but said we'd come back to. You can do a couple of things from this screen. You can print checks. So if you want to put in the check layout that you're using, put in the starting check number, decide what order you want the checks printed based off how they finished, your last name or whatever. Print your checks that way. And I mean, writing checks at the end of the night is consistently one of the biggest headaches of circle track racing. And now it is done in 3 minutes. Pretty good stuff there. There is a report option here. Print a report. This is what I use at the payout window for drivers signing for their checks. The payee is listed here. If the payee is an owner, the driver's name is in parentheses, how much they were owed, how much they were paid, white space for them to sign. That way you can monitor who's signing for their checks. You can also print mailing labels from this screen. So if you get their addresses, you'll be able to print mailing labels if you need to mail the checks out to the driver for whatever reason. And then you can export all of this information to QuickBooks as well. So if you use the desktop version of QuickBooks to track your financials already, there's an exports the .iif file. You import that into QuickBooks. All your financials are there and ready to go. And then at that point, you can shut the lights off and go home. So that is race management. That is entries, lineups, results, points, and pay. And that's kind of the stuff that you're doing on race night, basically. And that's the goal here, is to try to make that as efficient as we possibly can. We think we've gone a long way into doing that. I will tell you that all of the information that we have is proprietary. That means that we built all of it. None of this is our outsourced. This is our framework, our CMS, our everything. So for that reason, if you find things that you will see that are, hey, this could work better, or I have a feature, or I have an idea, you can email it to us, and we can run that to our own development team. We don't have to go to an outsourced place, and it makes this a lot easier to build for everybody involved. But with that, are there any questions that any of you guys have here before we wrap? Bridget? I think you're muted. There we go.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to unmute it. Okay, so for the MRP cards, so if we wanted to physically hand out the MRP cards, we would order them through you guys to give to the drivers.
Yes.
Correct.
We have a big warehouse full of them that Chris has access to. He will mail them to you. There's no cost for any of that. And then all you need is that barcode scanner. So you would basically just click assign card, scan the empty card, hand it to the driver, and then every night that they come back, they would scan their card that you handed them, and you've got the driver there.
Okay, so I think I saw something online, but I wanted to double check too. If we didn't want to do the card route, they have that kind of barcode already assigned in their app, right? And we would still need a scanner for that, right?
Correct. Yes. That is another feature of the barcodes that I didn't bring up. So thank you for that. There is, if I'm a driver and I claim my driver profile, I will have access to my MRP card in the app, It's the same barcode. You scan it the same way. So if they are in any way tech savvy at all, you shouldn't have to hand them a card. They should have it in their app, but it works either way the same way.
Okay. Do we tell the driver? Do we claim the drivers, or the drivers claim themselves?
Drivers can claim their own profiles, and then they can customize their own profiles with their own images, their own sponsor information, their own crew member information. So it really is a marketing tool for drivers to get that in front of, and I'm not exaggerating when I say millions of fans in the My Race Pass app. Chris, you have more on that?
Yeah, Austin, if I'm thinking right here, we added a new feature too, didn't we, for registration, where if a driver registers and does not have a claim profile, there's an auto claim, I think, that right now, that's requested. Austin?
There is. That's mostly just protection against a third party claiming a driver profile when we don't want them to do that. We want the drivers to do it themselves. But either way, driver is responsible for claiming their profile, and all they have to do is reach out to us if they have questions on how to do that.
Yeah, it's free to do, takes seconds to do it, and it's a really cool feature for the update the profile and the app and everything else as well. Fans always ask about it all the time.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, we'll have like a number of drivers who will even put their entire schedule for the season in the app so that they can show fans where and when they're going to be racing.
And then I have one more question. Will we use the barcode scanners for the, say, like general mission tickets? We plan on selling them throughout My Race Pass, and say, guest comes in, and would we scan their tickets? How would we go about doing that?
For front gate tickets, there's a couple of options there, and I know that we're building that map for you now, Bridget, so we can kind of go over that stuff too at that time. But typically what we have is just a Bluetooth scanner that somebody can connect to their phone, and it works like really slick for front gate tickets. There's a point of sale box office system that you can use to scan front gate tickets. You can use the app to scan front gate tickets, or you can use, like I said, a Bluetooth scanner. But the scanning permissions are different from the hard card. So the hard card is not based off the online ticket structure. It is literally just a 3D scanner that you can get for like $15 on Amazon.
Okay. Now, like, say if we didn't end up doing the scanning for the front tickets, like they say they print it out and they just say, hey, we bought a ticket. Now they can't, when they buy a ticket for a certain event, it won't, say we have a race this weekend and a race next weekend. For the next weekend, they bring this weekend's. I'm making this more confusing. You know what I'm saying? And they they use a previous race. Will it say on there the date, so they don't reuse them?
Yeah, all of our vouchers will have the date and the name of the event pretty clearly listed. So you name all your events and you put in your schedule. So it'll show event name, event date. If you're using a scanner, a Bluetooth scanner or something like that, the scanner won't scan one of our vouchers for a ticket that's trying to be scanned twice or a ticket that's being scanned on the wrong date. But what a lot of folks will do is they'll actually just print off the list of ticket buyers, and they'll use that as a will call list. So somebody brings their ticket to the front gate, they'll just have a list of their ticket buyers in front of them, and they'll mark it off as they come through. If you don't want to scan front gate tickets, folks will do it that way as well.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
And actually for your reserve seating style tailgate spots, it'll actually have the spot number on the ticket too. So somebody goes and buys spot number 35, it'll say tailgate, or not tailgate, I'm sorry, trackside spot 35 there.
Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Nick?
One last question. It involved that, the race monitor deal. Do y'all integrate into vMix, the video production? That's one thing I'm in. And we had a little bit of a go before we finally got Race Monitor figured out. But if we move away from Race Monitor, we would have to have y'all be the ones doing the integration in.
Yeah. So in this MRP Live tab, there is broadcast ticker information, and we'll have to turn this on for you. So when the time comes, we've got a guy by the name of Ross who handles all that stuff. But it literally is just API links. So we spit out all of this data that you see in this screen into an API link, which is basically just a CSV format that automatically updates every crossing. And you can just pull that data from that CSV for your overlays and stuff.
That's similar to the way we're doing it now with Race Monitor, so that would work.
Yep. I mean, Are you guys proprietary for your broadcasting, or are you Flow? You're probably Flow, aren't you?
We're with Flow, but we do it in-house.
Perfect. Flow has their own broadcaster portal that they log into. So if you're doing it in-house, more than likely they'll give you admin credentials for that. And you'll actually be able to pull all of this stuff from that portal. We built it custom for Flow to make that stuff super easy.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep. Cool. Well, that's all we've got. I appreciate the time, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your afternoon. I'll remind you that there is another session this evening at 6 Central Time, but I'll tell you that it is all the exact same stuff. So you being here means that you've got the information. Tonight's will be the same information. Hopefully, we can get some other people in. But thanks for taking the time. If you have any questions, support@myracepass.com is our support inbox. We can answer any questions you've got there. And I hope you guys